Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe.
Hey everybody, thank you for listening to another experience of Me and Paranormal You with your buddy Ryan Singer. Thanks to my guest as well. Let me intro you to Tabitha Moore, who's been researching the paranormal for nearly 20 years. Featured on several podcasts as well as Discovery's hit show Haunted Hospitals, been on CMT, and you've been researching the paranormal for like 20 years, like I said, and, basically kind of based out of the Southeast, I would say, just in general. Mm-hmm. So how you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Doing great. I'm a little sleepy, but doing great.
Yeah, we full disclosure, there was a crew of us, and we kind of were out a little bit late last night. A little later than normal.
I'm in bed by 10. I think I saw bed at 12.
Yeah. So, so this is exciting because I think the first time we met was in Florida.
Yes.
At a location that is being currently investigated. And, but before that, obviously I'd been, hearing about you. Let's get a little background real quick about, where did you grow up in this area in the Southeast?
Yeah, I was born in Nashville, and I lived there for a while, and then we moved up here because my dad was ex-military.
Oh, okay.
To Clarksville. So from Nashville to Clarksville and now Chapmansboro.
Okay, so did you move around a bunch as a military brat?
No, he retired shortly before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we just moved up here just because it was close to the post and we got all the benefits.
Oh, okay.
So that was nice.
Yeah, that's how my family ended up in Ohio. It was my grandpa. It was Air Force. From California, got restationed.
Okay.
At Wright Pat Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, okay.
But it's funny because we were off the air. We were talking something about, necks getting wrung. And I'll never forget my grandma, his wife. I affectionately call her Grandma Jesus, my mom's mom. Like one of the most holy people you'll ever meet in your life, like a living saint.
Right.
She was incredible. And the tiniest little thing, maybe 5'8", 75 pounds soaking wet, right? Anyway, one day there was a goose on their farm in New Carlisle, Ohio, is where they had a farm, like north of Dayton. And I remember it was kind of harassing us grandkids because, our parents would drop us off out there and we'd run around with our cousins just like wild animals on the farm during the summers. And then, Grandma went out there to, after we told her this goose was out there just squawking and running after all of us. And then the goose was gone. And it wasn't until, 25, 30 years later that I realized what we ate later that day was the goose.
I was like, did you have a good dinner that night afterwards?
Like she went out there and grabbed it and then wrung its neck.
Just wrung the neck.
And I can't imagine this woman killing an animal.
Right.
You're right. And not to mention the goose was probably almost her size. I mean, because she was so tiny. And I mean, they had a chicken coop and we go grab the eggs. And I felt like I was a bandit every time I did that. All these chickens squawking and, because we had to go get the eggs to have breakfast. But then, it makes sense when you get older. Like, oh yeah, they lived on a farm. This is what happens here.
Right.
But because you were talking about, what was the story you were telling about?
Oh, I lived in the middle of Nashville, close to where you were, last night at the comedy show. I lived in the middle of Nashville in West Delmas at the time. And we would go up to where we got our hair done and buy chickens from them. And because they had chickens in the backyard. It was like 4 or 5. And we come back down and then we would let them run around in the backyard. And then when we needed chicken, we just go out there and wring their little necks.
Oh my God.
And I was only 4 or 5 years old. And then they would chase you around. Or if you cut their head off, they chase you around.
Oh, my God. That is just... luckily, I never had to see that. I don't think I could have handled it. I was way too sensitive as a kid for blood.
Right.
Like, I couldn't handle the sight of blood happening as a kid. It really just kind of freaked me out. And to the point where, when I was 11, I had a baseball bat hit me in the forehead. And I had blood spurting out of my forehead. And, kids... And as I was on the playground at recess... I'd be walking by and girls would be fainting as they walked me in because I was just actively fountaining blood out of my head. But I'm surprised I didn't pass out. But I guess it's a little different when it's your own.
Right, because I'm good. I was in the medical field for 20 years. And I'm good if it's your blood. But if it's my blood, I'm down. I'm like, let me just fall out on the floor.
Well, that's interesting.
out.
Well, that makes me think of some interesting connections potentially between, spending 20 years in the medical field and actually researching the paranormal. Because there seems to be, medical facilities specifically are legendary. These, abandoned mental hospitals or old hospitals or clinics or things like that. Typically in these like towns across the country, in the middle of nowhere sometimes, and sometimes major cities, they seem to have high paranormal activity attached to them, maybe due to the stress and all the energies that are happening there. Now, when you were young, were you drawn to the paranormal initially early on, or was it something that happened later because of a major event or an experience?
I grew up in a very religious household. We were Pentecostal, so it was not really talked about. It was very hush-hush. But we moved up to Clarksville when I was 7, and one night my dad's laying on the couch, and my mom's sitting in a chair, and he's like, we had our bedroom in the attic upstairs. They had changed it into a big bedroom. So my sister and I was 7, she was 11, and my dad starts yelling. He's like, Tabitha, if you don't get up them steps right now, you're going to get grounded. My mom's like, what are you talking about? He's like, Tabitha, she's playing peekaboo. I can see her. My mom's like, no, she's in bed. And my dad was like, no, she's not. And a few minutes later, my dad yelled again at me. He's like, if you don't get up them steps right now, he's like, you're going to be grounded. So my mom's like, what are you talking about? And so she finally, after they had this conversation for like 10 minutes, she's like, she's asleep upstairs. I put her to bed. They haven't come down the steps because I can see the door open. And it turned out we had a spirit in our house that was about 7 years old. And we both wore like white clothing, like white T-shirts. She had like a white dress on.
So it was like your twin almost.
It was like my twin. And so you could just see her perfectly. Dark hair, very pale. I'm very pale, apparently. Like,
You're
how
translucent.
does my dad confuse me for a ghost? But
that is funny
But
to
he
think about.
did.
That is funny to think about. But I mean, the peekaboo thing, it's a quick movement kind of sighting, right? But okay, so after that happened, did the conversation open up?
it kind of opened up. Like then everybody started seeing her. And like you would go downstairs to go to the bathroom at night, and my sister and I'd be like, we don't need to go, because she would be standing between us and the bathroom. And we're like, we're good.
Yeah.
We'll just not go to the bathroom. So that happened a lot. And then we started noticing a lot of spirit activity.
Real quick, before we get into a lot of spirit activity, and this might just be because I am forever a 12-year-old boy, but there seems to be something about bathroom activity and ghost activity.
Yes.
I mean, I just experienced this at that Mutilation Ranch, and every time I would go into the field to go, then something would happen in the sky because I didn't have my camera, and it was like it became really funny to me.
Right.
But in when I'm in Florida, I won't leave the sugar shack at 4 a.m. to go outside and pee. I'll just I'll suffer.
I will tell you this, and everybody else apparently too. When I worked for a chiropractor, I was in the bathroom, going to the bathroom, and a full body apparition walked through the bathroom.
Wait, what?
Yes, the time I was going to the bathroom. Thank God I was already going, because
Yeah,
I would have went on
expedited.
myself. I would have just went right there. But it turned out that they had done reconstruction on the building, and that was the hallway. So you could see a man walking through the bathroom.
Now, what do you think, was that the only time you had seen that full body apparition when you worked there?
No, like several people had seen him. Room 3 was very active. We would go, we would tell our patients, hey, go into room 3. We'll be in there in a minute. And they're like, okay. Then they would say, hey, I can't go in there. There's a man sitting in there. And we're like, no, there's not. And so we would go and check, and the room would be empty. And they hadn't left the patient hadn't left the room, or left by it. So nobody could walk out. So he showed up a lot there. You could see him walking in the hallways. And then we had a female who would, turn paper, she would be reading a book out in the waiting room, and you could hear the pages turning.
Oh, wow.
And then one day I looked up and I actually saw her, and then I was like, I don't remember that patient being there. And I looked at the name I was looking for a name on the board, the sign-in sheet, and when I looked up, she was gone. But that man, he would throw stuff at us. Like, he threw a book out on the floor, he hit me in the back of the head.
So he was actually moving physical space.
Right.
And objects in space.
Yes.
And it was always a chiropractic building or like a doctor's office?
That was the doctor's office, the chiropractor I worked for. We had a lot of spirit activity there. We were right there, close to Limestone. We were across from the river. It was an old building. It was just like the perfect...
Okay, so it was like a doctor's office even a long time ago.
Right.
Before that?
Yes. And then when I worked in Dallas, I had a lot of activity.
Well, wow. So we're not even 10 minutes in. I'm looking at the thing. We're right at 10 minutes in. And you've already just mentioned 2 full body apparitions that you've seen, which is, to someone who hasn't seen one is crazy in a good way, like to have those kind of sightings. Mm-hmm. I want to rewind to the house and your twinsy ghost.
Right.
And so you would see her blocking, she would just be blocking the bathroom. So I mistook in my number 3. Right. Are we at 3 full body apparitions?
So far, there's been plenty of others. I'm like, this
that is
normal.
Remarkable. That's truly
just
remarkable.
Normal.
So did you ever, I guess at the time you were only 7, but was there ever like a research, an investigation into the identity of who this little girl might have been?
Well, I actually found out who she was because I was on jury duty one time, and I went down to the basement of the courthouse, and I went to go get something to eat, and I was like, wait. I turned around, and her picture was on the wall.
Are you kidding me?
No. And I was like...
You recognized her
I
years
recognized
later.
her because I was 7, and I didn't move out of that house till I was 21 because my mom and dad divorced, and I stayed with her until we moved out of that house. And
her being your mom, not the
mom,
ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, the ghost didn't get custody.
She was there the whole time.
Okay.
So, she was very responsible. She could have gotten custody. I don't know. But she was there the whole time. Like, there's times where we would be sitting in the living room and you could hear her go, Mama, come here. And we all feel bad for her. And my mom would be like, I'm right here, baby girl, because she was calling for her parents. But it was really weird seeing her picture on the wall during jury duty.
Why was her picture on the wall in the basement of the courthouse?
Because she was from a very predominant family. So...
also like a well-known family in town that maybe helped build the building?
Yes, it helped probably that. I think her dad was like either a doctor or a lawyer in town, and she passed away when she was smaller.
I was going to say, that was my next question. I wonder if she was, did we find out why? Was it a sickness?
I didn't find out why. Once I saw the picture, I was like, okay, but her name matched the road I grew up on. And it's interesting, her first name was Elizabeth. And I didn't think about that when I named my daughter. But oh wow! But it was just really weird seeing her on the wall. I was like, hey. So the next time we were around that way, I told my mom, I was like, get out of the car. We're going to the courthouse. So we had to go get scanned in and everything. I was like, come see the little girl. She's in their basement. So that's what we did.
So they just would let you in, just like, oh, we're just here to look at a painting in the basement. Right.
That's what I said. We're coming. The little girl who haunted our house is downstairs, a picture, and I'm showing my mom.
Isn't that what you said? And they're like, okay, come on in.
Yeah, they're like, come on in.
It's interesting because people who even identify themselves as skeptical, usually when you present such a whimsical reason to want to explore a space or a place, they'll just be like, oh okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's better than you coming in here to like raise hell or cause a problem or whatever else. Wow, that's intriguing. Okay, so you saw your first full body apparition at 7. There wasn't one before that, was there?
I do not remember one. We moved from Nashville up there, but I really don't. I don't remember a lot before I was 7. I have no
idea what my first memory is. I don't know if I was 11 or if I was 4.
Right, that's about like me. Yeah. That I don't
Some
remember.
people are very specific in their memory.
Right.
And I was just, they're like, I was 2 years old. And I'm like, I don't know. How do you remember your age? So like, I didn't even start paying attention to how old I was until I think probably school started.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking, this is pretty active.
Yes.
Pretty active life with premonitions just kind of showing up and showing themselves to you, which doesn't happen to a ton of people.
Right.
It probably happens to more people than we know because people don't talk about it, maybe. But it's there's for me in the world of the paranormal there seems to be I don't want to say specialties.
Right.
But it almost feels like that, right?
Yes.
Or specializations or a specific field that people seem just maybe more naturally drawn to or have abilities in that field that were just naturally fostered without them even trying or even seeking it out?
Right.
Would you say that seeing ghosts is one of your specialties?
I think I see and hear. So I hear them more than I see them. So when they'll start talking, and I'll be like, oh, no, I have to give somebody a message. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I've actually told one of my church members, I was like, I need to talk to you. And she comes into the room, and I was like, hey, you take it or leave it. I told 2 church members, I was like, you take it or leave it. I got to give you a message. I don't care if you don't talk to me after this, but your mama is on my nerves. And so I gave her the message.
I just don't want to have to keep being told to tell you.
Right. And I'm not one to do that. I would just be like, I'll keep it in. I was like, I don't want to tell them. No, thank you. I'm not that type of, I'm very introverted, even though I'm not, and so.
I would describe you as introverted until you've met someone.
Right.
But as soon as someone is not a stranger,
right,
then you're no longer an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also, Southern by nature.
Right.
So I'm trying to say this in a very, I'm trying not to sound like such a man when I say this, but you know how in a lot of, I think it's fair to say that in Southern culture, women are kind of taught to be, providers,
right,
taken care of, and also don't be in the way.
Right.
Right. I sense that you do have a little, like we were just passing each other in the living room, the kitchen. I think it was either earlier today or last night. And you're just like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, this is your house.
Right. I got you your Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's a whole other story. Oh my God. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm not trying to, say that, oh, you're just you're a subservient woman. Or, that's not what I'm saying at all. But there's definitely, difference, when especially when we go down to Florida, that location, in Carolyn down there.
Right.
It's like she will refuse to let you not eat like 7 times a day. Right.
And she basically feeds you.
Yes.
If you don't eat enough.
And it's a very, that's something that's very real about Southern culture. And listen, I'm not complaining about that aspect in any way, shape, or form. But, okay, let me get this back on track. Now I'm thinking about all the cinnamon rolls and food, and I'm thinking about all the Starbursts that are sitting right in front of me. That is interesting. Okay, we're not going to talk about candy, but because I could talk about candy all day long. But you have this whole life where you're experiencing, starting at a young age, seeing and hearing, and I'm curious: do the people now, specifically, you mentioned your church? Because you mentioned you were reading a meme earlier, and that was really funny. That was right on about like
right.
Southern culture, right? It was something like what do you
it's
remember?
Like Southern Christians don't do not witchcraft, but
we don't see ghosts, we don't talk to ghosts,
right.
Or any of that kind of stuff.
Right, but that cardinal outside's my meme all that passed, and that's just so true. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, it's just a slightly different. It's the exact same thing, but slightly different. I'm curious, did these people at your church, specifically the ones you've given messages to, do they look at you differently now? Are you kind of like, the ghost lady?
Right. I'm very open and honest, and they'll be like, what'd you do last night? I'm like, I went to Octagon Hall. I went to Brushy Mountain. Or, so I don't hide it because I'm like, I have nothing to be ashamed of. And if it makes you uncomfortable, that's not my fault. If I go to church, I'm just not like, hey, how you doing today? I saw a ghost last night. I'm not like that, but I will not hide who I am. So if you don't like that, then you got to figure out what you're going to do with me. I'm okay with you not liking me. For that reason.
It's not your job.
It's not my job. I went through so much religious issues when I was younger that now I make sure to teach my daughter and you have to set those boundaries. Like, we're not going to, like I said, I don't bring it into the church, but if you ask questions, and a lot of church members are so like, tell me everything you saw last night.
Well, the whole premise of church is supernatural.
Right.
I've always told people, I'm like, Jesus is probably the most famous ghost that was ever seen.
Right. And it's in the Bible. Right? Like when the one disciple, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name, Peter, Paul. He was like, "Oh, Lord, I thought you were a ghost," when he was walking on the water. Jesus didn't correct him and say, "There's no such thing as ghost." You know, he just was like...
Yeah, he didn't like shame him like,
Right.
"Ghost, you're an idiot, Paul."
Right. So they're just a lot of them are very interested, and they want to know. They're kind of scared when they start out, and then I'll just talk to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, not a problem," and they get really interested in it. I have one person at church who is just dead set against it, but they'll come up to me and ask me questions, and I'm like, I'm not. And then they come up with some smart comment. I'm like, "You came to me. I didn't come to you.
I didn't instigate
so
this.
That's okay. Like, you got to figure out your own. There's a reason why you're asking questions."
Yeah, 100%. They're bringing it up for a reason. And
right.
It's interesting, too, because the whole signaling from the church about all this stuff being the devil's work and all this other kind of stuff, to me, it speaks... You know, when, like, there's a guy who... He tries to act like the toughest guy in the world. It's because he's the most insecure. Right. And the most scared of being in a fight. Mm-hmm. To me, you know, growing up in the Catholic Church, I was always of the belief that the people, the individuals in that group that were the most adamant about, like, let me tell you why this is, you know, blah, blah, you can't be... Like, they were the most unstable in their belief about what was actually real and what wasn't real. Right. And they were overcompensating, I suppose, is a short way of saying that. But let's take a quick break. We've got a lot. I feel like we've barely even touched the tip of the iceberg here. We're going to be back with Tabitha Moore. We're going to be talking about, you know, maybe we'll get into maybe your favorite investigation that you've ever done, or some of the, you know, maybe some highlights from investigations. And you know, some of your favorite locations as well. And just a reminder, patrons, you can get commercial-free episodes over at patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month. You know, that's nothing. That's really nothing, especially with, you know, the price of everything nowadays. $3 is nothing. So go do that. You know, I think you'd feel better about it. I can't guarantee you that. This isn't a prescription. I'm not your doctor or a life coach, but why am I still talking? Okay, we're back. Okay, so I want to get into your first investigation. Mm-hmm. Because I think, for me, that's an interesting moment in any person's life. Now, I know a lot of people who were brought in by a parent who were, you know, investigators or ghost hunters or whatever we want to call them. And so they were young and got, like, thrown into this world, which to me was like, I couldn't imagine being 12 years old and being taken on an investigation. That would have been the wildest, coolest thing ever, right? Right. But I don't even think my parents would know what paranormal investigation really means if I said that phrase to them. Right. And that's all four of them, like parents and step-parents. They'd be kind of like, well, so what? Because it wasn't until, like, very recently that they realized there was more than one Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. They just thought Bigfoot was like the Loch Ness Monster. Right. Right. So let's get into, do you remember your first investigation? I do remember my first investigation. It would be at a house not far from here. And we went there because the family was having issues. The dad was overseas and the mom and the kids were here. The church wouldn't help them. They were like, nope, no, can't help you. And that was perfect for me. I was like, hey, I grew up in this. I grew up in the church. I can help you out. Like, that was just like one of my callings, is to help people understand it's okay. So we went, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever done. Like, the activity that happened that night, I don't think, when they interviewed us, we looked terrified. I mean, I was just, you could hear drums. Like, we were actually crawled in. What happened was, at night, they would start having issues. So me and this other girl, we were like, hey, we'll crawl into bed, into the big bed, because all the family was so scared they slept in one bed. I mean, like one bed or in the room together. So her and I were like, let's crawl into the bed and see what happens. And so all the guys walked out, and they, like, walked down the road. So they left the house.
They left the house. So it was me and her, and we were both newbies. We had never been on a case before. And we're like, okay, here we go. We got this. And you could hear one of the meters going off upstairs, it never stopped. It'd be like, nyeh, nyeh,
When you say meters,
time.
what
It was
does
like
that
a
mean?
trifield meter.
One of the devices.
It never stopped. Yes.
Oh,
It hadn't gone off all night. But after the men left the house, it never stopped. We were in there about an hour by ourselves. And you could hear the drums beating. And you could hear like...
Is that something that they were hearing?
They were hearing it at night. You could see shadows just like floating on the ceiling. You could hear people walking upstairs. On one of the cassettes, we had like different tape recorders out. And you could hear them being like, sure is cold. I mean, sure is hot. And they're like, yep, but they left. They'll come back. And you could hear them like walking through the house having conversations with each other. And it was just like when we were listening to it, we're like, that's really odd. Light activity going off in the living room while we were by ourselves. In fact, we got in trouble because they were like, hey, y'all need to get back into the bedroom and quit walking around out front because we can see y'all walking. We're like, we're not even out of the bed. Like, we were freezing. But we were like, we're not out of the bed. They're like, well, who's in the living room? I was like, I don't care.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't care who's in the living room. Stuck here in this bed. Like,
and I don't want to know now.
I don't want to know now. One of the other girl got touched and she had like a whole handprint on her hand. It was just so much
This is like
activity.
a baptism under fire.
It was. It was like if that made you or broke you right there. Turned out the subdivision had built on a slave cabin.
Oh.
And we were having activity from that. So it was just really interesting. Like, and we took it to the church and the church was like, y'all brought that into the house. I was like, no, I didn't bring it into the house. I don't want it. She can keep it. But they sent all the evidence overseas to the husband so he could watch it. And all the men were around and they were watching it. And they were like, we'll sign up for another tour to never sleep in your house. They were like, that's what your family's going through was horrendous. But it was like a whole hour of activity that it was almost too much. You couldn't figure out one thing without something else going on. So
what's interesting too is your first investigation is a case. It's not just hey, we're going to go to a place that is known for this, and so we're going to go and experience some activity.
Right.
This was an actual real life situation.
Right.
Where I think some people may forget or not be aware of, and you know, in my history on this is going to be cloudy, but paranormal investigations didn't begin as, a bunch of people. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
A bunch of people getting together to go to a famously haunted place just to see what they get. I mean, I'm almost certain that they began as investigations or cases for people who were having activity at their house and wanted an understanding or wanted help.
Right, because Hans Holzer did a lot.
Yes.
He did a lot of home investigations. And so, so almost all my first investigations, except for a couple, was mostly home. I was going every week because I was so caught up in it. I was like,
wow, that's
this
interesting
nice.
too. And it's like, I mean, before paranormal investigation became its own industry.
Right. We were
I guess
still
that's
using
the way to
powder
say it.
on the floors.
Yeah.
And we were still using like trip objects because we didn't have all the big stuff.
What year was this?
2006, right around there.
So roughly 19 years ago from right now. And what's interesting too is there's no shortage of it, it sounds like, from what you just said. And,
right.
Because you said you got sucked in and you're doing it every week. It's like, okay, so there's lots of people who need help and need understanding.
Right. There's a lot of people who need help. There's a lot of people who want their house to be haunted too. Because we were part of that TAPS organization, the group I was in. And so they were always filtering stuff down to us. But some people were like, yeah, my house is haunted. And I'm like, no, your house ain't haunted. You got wind chimes on your water pipes. It's going to happen. Who I trained with was a big debunker. He was like, we are going to figure out the source. And if there's no source, then we're not going to say it's haunted, but we're going to say we got to come back. So we would go back 3 or 4 times throughout the year.
Well, you said an interesting word there too, who I trained with, which is, now personally, I wouldn't say I've ever had a specific trainer.
Right.
But there are people that I would consider have trained me. Now, they might not be aware of this.
Right.
But I never had an official person who was my trainer, right? Just because I was always in a different place. I'm always traveling and things like that. But there's definitely, I almost feel like I'm one of the investigators who I feel like I've trained with anyone I've ever done an investigation with. Because I feel the same way in comedy. You can learn something from every comedian who goes on stage, even if it's their first time.
Right.
And I feel like you can learn something from every investigator, even if they're outlandishly, let's just say, insane in what they're doing or kind of a joke in what they're doing. There is something that can be learned there, even if it's what not to do, right? Mm-hmm. So, gosh, I just can't understand what it would be like to have that be your first experience on an investigation is that case. And was there any resolution ever about, did you go back to that house?
We tried to get back to that house, but they moved. They were like, we're not dealing with it. And it turned out they weren't the only ones having issues. There was other people in the neighborhood. But it was during that time where it was just getting started, having ghost hunters come into your house, and people still thought you were weird. But it was, we never got called back in there. The family just packed up and moved. Wow,
I'd really be interested to know the history. Maybe afterward, without giving away the location, we'll look up Zillow, the address, if you can remember it.
I can remember the area, so I could probably drive you there. So I could probably go through the little Google Street and do that.
Yeah, we could pinpoint the address because I'd love to see the sale history on Zillow. Mm-hmm. That house has probably been sold once every 18 months.
Probably. Because I would have to think twice before living there, and I grew up in one.
Especially like we're just getting out of here. There are people, and I can't remember if there's somebody out there doing this, but I saw it as a joke on a realty sign in my parents' neighborhood once. It said, like on a new listing, sometimes they'll put like immaculate, or this one said super haunted on top of like the realty sign. I was like, they're being funny because it's kind of a newer
but
house.
I would buy that house.
But there, people, there's a market for a ghost realtor. Mm-hmm. Or for like a haunted someone who sells haunted houses,
right?
Because people do want to buy them. I think the very famous comedian just bought Ed and Lorraine Warren's house.
Yes,
and that just happened. And rights to the museum. Anyway, but so that's the first. Mm-hmm. That's the first location, and then you start getting sucked into other investigations.
Yes,
all in the same area, and. I'm curious how many of them were they finding like the group somehow through like the TAPS website, or what was going on?
Yes.
How were you getting these cases?
They were finding the group through the TAPS website. We had our own website at the time, so we were getting a lot just around this area. But during that time is when like locations started opening up. So like one of the first locations I went into was Octagon Hall. That's a very active location. It's one of them. I'm going this weekend. So there's one of them that's one of them locations that if you want to get activity, you just go there. Then I went into like old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and you get the whole hospital by yourself, so and at that point I think only like 2 other teams had been in there when we went in, so it was fairly new. But once you get it in your blood, I feel like it's been in my blood, so once you get it in your blood, I just never want to stop.
Yeah, I don't know, it's especially after the first time, there's so many parallels to me, obviously, with, performing stand-up comedy and paranormal investigations, but someone knows the first time they ever do an open mic night. Mm-hmm. You've either got the sickness immediately after your first time ever performing, or you don't.
Right.
And I feel like it's that way with paranormal investigation. Even if it's kind of a dud, as some people might call it, a slow night or whatever, that doesn't matter, I don't think.
No, and there's been locations I went to that was very slow, but they're so historical that it's really interesting because most of the time I want to go for the history, and then the paranormal is the next thing, because it's nice when I was on the USS North Carolina, we were hosting a tour there, and we got to go to where the torpedo had hit. And not many people get to go to that location. Or when you're at a museum and they take all the red, the drape, what do you call it? The red, like you can't go any further. They just let you go.
Oh, like the ropes.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, you can go wherever you want to. And I'm like, hee hee. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you can just get right up close to it. And it's just awesome to get that history.
Yeah, and there's something about just knowing you're in a place too when most people aren't in there.
Right.
That's kind of fun. You kind of feel like you've snuck into a place, right?
Right.
That's what I love playhouses or places like that. Historically, and famously haunted. Every theater, playhouse is haunted,
right?
In the world, but it's there's different types of, like, for me, like when all the haunted like playhouses or theaters, right? Sometimes we'll do like applause. We'll just do loud applause to try to see, okay, is there a performer here, right? And so very location specific techniques depending on where you might go, and sometimes those will work and sometimes they won't. But I'm wondering if you find that there is a specific kind of location that you go to that seems to be the most intense.
A lot. We're close to a lot of Civil War homes, so there's times where if I know like which side has occupied that home, I'll play music for both, because I'm like, everybody wants to hear their home music, Or we went to a jail, and the one question I asked, and we got a reply back, I was like, what dish do you miss from your mom or your grandmother? Like, if you could have it one more time, what would you request? And they said cornbread.
That's a great question.
And I'm like, because everybody remembers that. Like, you remember your grandmother's pie or whatever, and
my grandma's peanut butter pie.
Right. And
so if you ever, after I'm dead, and you most certainly will still be alive when I'm dead.
We're the same age. I think I'm older, so it's all good.
But it'll be, an easy question.
Right.
An easy answer. If peanut butter pie comes through, I'm talking to somebody.
Right. And I'm asking the weirdest questions. I'll be like, so did you go to your funeral? Who were you shocked by being there?
Oh,
who did not come that you should have come?
Yeah.
or who came that you were like, no, we didn't like you anymore? Right. How dare you?
How dare you act like we
You're
were
on
close.
my haunted list.
I used to have a joke about that. Like, I'm like, the joke, this was much darker time in my comedy where I was like, the only thing keeping me alive is spite, because I don't want to be at my funeral looking up at this guy trying to tell everybody how close we were, and we weren't close, and we were, I hated him.
Right.
And I'm like, that keeps me alive. I'm not going to give him the chance.
Right.
And I'm just like, pretty, not that funny, honestly,
but it's true. It's true.
But yeah, that's interesting. It's an emotionally charged question as well that can get to the heart of the energy maybe that's there, or whatever these ideas that we have, ways to connect with the other side through the strong emotion of when they were alive. And whether that's the reminiscing or the longing for a home cooked meal, or the emotionally charged event of seeing your own funeral, which is like facing your own death even though you're dead, which is pretty intense, right? For most people, I would probably argue,
right?
That's a good way to those are good ways to get to the heart of the matter, and they're probably more effective in eliciting responses,
right?
You probably have a better chance if you ask a more interesting question,
right? Like, what's your favorite cigar? And if I know what their favorite cigar is, I'll bring it the next time I come. Or like one gentleman, we were at his house, and he was known as a distiller. So we all took a shot before we did our investigation, and we left him one on like the fireplace mantle, and it's something that we tried to make a connection.
Something personal. So, like, okay, because to me it really goes a long way into showing that this isn't a carnival act here.
Right.
We're making some effort here to personalize this, and to actually make contact with someone who's an individual who might be also part of the greater consciousness, but at the same time, when they are in physical form, they were an individual, and not just showing up and being like a general survey. Who's here?
Right. What's your name?
Especially if you have access to some of that information. What I'm curious about, and actually, let's do the last break first, and then because I think this is a longer discussion than just a quick question before a commercial. But I want to talk about wait, what was it I was just getting ready to ask? How did that leave my head that quick?
You had so much knowledge in there. Something else just pushed it right out.
Okay. Maybe I'll remember while we're at break. We're going to take a quick break. This is the last break of the show. Just a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you no commercials. Thank you to all the patrons that are over there. You can be a free patron. You know what? I'll put this one up ad-free for even the free patrons. All you got to do is just go over to the Patreon, sign up to follow, and you don't even have to pay money. And this one will be ad-free for you, but only over at patreon.com/Ryan Singer. We're going to be right back with Tabitha Moore. We're going to be talking more about ghosty stuff and everything else when we get back. And we've returned. And I did not remember.
That's okay.
It was something about the the nature of investigation, right? Mm-hmm. But I am curious, what's your favorite location? If you had to pick three, let's say three, because picking one is not fair.
Right. I would say Octagon Hall, number one favorite. Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. And then the next one would be the old jail and the old funeral home in Lynchburg, Tennessee, where Jack Daniels was.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't been to Pittsburgh.
South Pittsburgh is outside of Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
It's on the mountain.
Oh, okay.
So
cool. I do want to talk to you about what you saw in Florida.
Oh, yes.
Now, somebody else had a sighting there, and initially I was kind of lumping them, not together, but we did some investigation, or at least just through hearing the descriptions. I don't think they're the same thing.
No.
Now, whether or not yours or not, because how about you just tell me what happened, and then maybe we'll get into maybe some questions and some details, because initially there was a creature we were calling the white creeper that we thought we've encountered there now, all of a sudden as of the last couple trips. But and this was 2024. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the details, or do I need to kind of set the stage a little bit?
No, I was actually sitting outside on the front porch.
Okay.
And y'all were somewhere. Y'all may have been out in the woods, and I was sitting there, and I was looking out, and all of a sudden from one tree, I see like a head pop out, and it was a white shadow, like you could just see the body, and it just ran from one tree to the other, like it didn't want to be seen. It was looking around. So I had to sit there quietly, which is odd for me because I do talk to myself. And I'm like, so I was sitting there, and I think because it was so quiet, it thought it was alone, and it just popped its head out and then just took off running for the next tree. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, here I am, no equipment.
Yeah.
Just sitting here by myself. Who's going to believe me? And that was just the most interesting thing, because you could see the arms, you could just see the whole body. It didn't have I didn't see any clothes. I didn't see it was just like the shape of a person, but it wasn't a full apparition like I've seen before.
So it was kind of translucent a little bit,
yes.
Or a little,
mm-hmm.
So there was some see-through qualities to it, or just,
yes.
It wasn't a solid,
right? It wasn't
physical, like meat sack, right?
Right. It was almost like energy just running from one tree to the next. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's, we have different theories about who and what might be running around down there at this Florida location. And,
right.
Whether or not, I think some of it might be even, human beings maybe remote viewing there, or trying to mind travel there out of body and things like that. I mean, who knows, right?
Right.
But what kind of sense did you get energetically, as far as the type of thing it may have been? Like good energy, bad energy, uneasy, comfortable?
I got that it was connected to the land. And I hate to even say this because it's in every paranormal show, but I felt like it had something to do with the Native Americans that were there. I don't know if it was one of their guardians or a lookout for them or what, but it was associated with them. Because I did find out afterwards, after I had said, hey, I think it was Native American. I feel like it really was associated with that. That's when I found out they had.
When they built a house,
right.
And when they were, clearing the land or getting ready to build the actual house there, that's when they find the artifacts.
Right. And I tried to go in blind to that location because I was not wanting to really know.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
Right. I had been down there once before, and that's when Ed had played a recording and we had gotten a response back. And that's the first time I really was like, oh, Bigfoot could be real. I'm not in that category. The first time I saw a UFO, I'm like, that's not my category. That's not what I am.
That's not my specialty.
That's not my specialty. And so when I heard that reply back, I was like, hey, okay, this is.
Tell me about that, because you were there with just Bill and Carolyn, right?
Yes, and it was Bill, Carolyn, Ed, and I, and we were sitting on the back deck, and he's like, "Hey, let me play this for you," and he had
Set
a
the stage a
recording.
little bit. Are we talking? Is it evening, night?
It's evening. It's nighttime.
Oh, so it's dark out.
Yes, and we had like a fire going, and we were on the back deck, and he goes to play this sound, and it was the one where there's like something hollering. I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not. And as he gets done playing it, there was a reply that came back from the woods, straight out past where the little clearing is, and it was coming from out there. And I was like, did y'all hear that? Anybody hear it? I think maybe Bill did, which is really amazing that Bill heard it,
Yeah.
that nobody else did, Carolyn didn't. And I was like, play it again. And so he played it again, and a few minutes later, it replied back. And I was like, oh, okay. Like
it's amazing, but it's also gives me uneasiness.
Right. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, this could be true. Okay. Because I've always believed in Bigfoot, but I've never.
But there's a big difference between believing in Bigfoot and then, I think Bigfoot is right here.
Right here next to
and
me.
It's, in theory, it's like, oh, that would be awesome for people who have never maybe gone squatching or whatever. But then when you realize that there is this creature of some unknown origin
right,
or explanation, and you think you just heard it, and it's pretty close, that it becomes real fast.
Right.
And that is, it can be unsettling.
Right. And that's like when we were down there that last time, and I was like, hey, there's something going on out here. It sounded just like a huge person, just like boom, boom, boom to the woods. I was like, what is that? It's just amazing that that's a possibility, that it is out there and it's so close. And I'm like, okay. So at one point years ago, my daughter Elizabeth and I were on a camping trip, and I'm standing out there by myself at the tent in the middle of Clarksville, and a rock comes sailing across the creek and like sails right by my head.
Like how? What?
Like a huge rock.
Okay, about the size of a baseball?
Yes. Just comes sailing out of nowhere. And I was like, what would have thrown that? And I was like, it's probably a Bigfoot. But why is there a Bigfoot in the middle of...
Something with a thumb through it.
Right. It had to be something, And I was like, that was the weirdest thing, because I heard it come past and I heard it hit. And I was like, I've never had that happen to me before. And so that was my like, hey, we could be out here. And then that was my next thing that happened. And I was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be making another trip out there to Florida, to the Florida spot, and, relatively soon. And by the most recent reports I've been receiving is that whatever this new creature or whatever this thing is, it is still out there and it's still making a ruckus.
Right.
And that excites me. And also makes me a little uneasy still, but mostly now I think the meter has shifted to more exciting than uneasiness for me.
Right.
But it's taken years for me to get there. I just don't understand, I guess, what it's going to take for these creatures to let us capture them on film in a very demonstrative, which seems like the craziest word to use,
right?
But in a very definitive way, and because I do feel, for some reason, like they're just not letting us have it yet,
right?
And I don't know why, and I'm not trying to be like, well, once we reach a certain level of understanding, and I'm not trying to get into that whole conversation, but I do feel like they're the ones in control of the narrative right now when it comes to the evidence.
Well, look how many pictures of spirits we have, and how many, we don't have a lot, like true ones. We have ones that they're made up, or it could be, but we don't have a lot there. We just have to go with what we have. And
yeah,
I've seen more evidence to say yes, there's something, instead of going backwards and saying no, there's nothing.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that POV. What the question I wanted to ask that I forgot, but then have since remembered because you mentioned it. You talked about not wanting to go into a location with being preloaded with a bunch of information. Now, I think some people, especially when you go to these very famous haunted locations that rent themselves out to investigator groups all year round. And one of my favorite places, Poasttown Elementary School.
Oh, that's an awesome location.
There's a couple narratives of who's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like going into a place without being loaded up, just to see what we get, right? But at the same time, I do feel like if you can build off the back of local investigation groups or people who have been going to the location for a long, long time, and as long as you trust them, it's a cheat code to jump ahead in the investigation in time. You can get past all that, the introduction part, right?
Right.
And now you can get into hopefully a conversation, which I do feel like that, at least for me in my investigations, I feel like it always has to start with an introduction, and then you can't cut to the chase. It's like almost like you got to wine and dine.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not going to get married on the first time you show up to a location, unless you're super lucky. Sometimes I suppose that can happen. But now, if you're going to a really famous place, are you trying to just put out of your mind the stuff that maybe has been on TV or in documentaries or what other people are saying, or are you building?
I kind of do both. I try to put it out, and then I do a lot of my research after the fact. Like, okay, this is the names I've got. Let's figure out where these names are from. Because I feel like just because something shows itself to me or I get an EVP for me, it may not be for you. We could see two different spirits. And just because you got the name Jane and I got the name Bob doesn't mean Jane or Bob's not there, because neither one of us saw the other, So I think sometimes what I see or hear is different than what other people see or hear, and then we build on that. And what I say is nobody's 100%. Just because I see something, don't take my word for it. If it doesn't come with a K2 meter going off, if it doesn't come with
layers,
other things to back it up, then we're going to throw my stuff out until we can get proof.
Yeah, the multiple layers of things happening simultaneously are super compelling for me, and I think for everybody.
Right.
And it gives us a better chance to kind of show it to a skeptical person and be like, well, how do you explain all of these things happening simultaneously? And those are I think really gifts. Those are moments that are true gifts from whatever is out there.
Right.
And I got to remember to be thankful for those moments. But the problem is, you get one of those moments, and now you're like, oh, feed me, Seymour, right? Like, oh, let's do that again. Let's do that again, but bigger, right? And it's just like, okay, I'm being greedy, and it just can't help it. Like, I was on an investigation with Matthew Jackson just about a week and a half ago, not even, and he had a lot of knowledge of this place going in, and I didn't. I hear a name through an ITC device. And I say, I just heard this name. And then he looks at me, and I knew what his look meant. He's like, I wasn't going to say it, and you have no idea, and you said it. So that makes you're not going to believe whose name you just said. So to me, I love that aspect of the combination of being preloaded and also brand new or clean slate. Because when the preloaded information or the background story can get validated by someone new who doesn't already know that information, that's also, I think, another way to really layer a compelling piece of evidence.
We had an investigation. It was about a month or so ago. We went to West Virginia. It was me, Vicki, and Ed. We went to West Virginia to this location. And I was doing research because they had a couple of names, and somebody had just bought the house and they're redoing it, and they're going to open it up for people to go and investigate. Well, I'm investigating, and I go through family search, and it was like, see how you're related to this person. I'm like, I've never been, I don't know, because I've never been to West Virginia. I don't know people in West Virginia. I don't know. Turns out she was my 6th cousin who died in the house.
Really?
Yes. And the picture I have, and I'll show it to you later, the woman looks just like my mom. Like they could be sisters or twins. And it was really weird because when I walked in, I was like, oh, that's just really weird. Because it was the picture that they had up of her. I was like, that could be my mom,
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was really interesting because we didn't have but 2 names. And the one name I had, I was able to, it was just a first name. And I was able to connect that first name through a lot of research. And that's when I found out I was related to them. And there were two siblings. One went to West Virginia, one came into Tennessee, and that's how our families are.
Wow.
I was just like, wow, that was meant to be right there.
That's really, I mean, what are the chances?
Right. So that research was good. That was a lot of...
Well, let me ask you this. If you had to pick, like, okay, and this isn't a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick being given results, captured audio, video, etc., information captured in a location, you only get to research, deep dive, go into the bones of it. Like, you get full access to anything you want to be able to try to research. Microfiche, the internet, the Vatican Library, whatever, right? Or you're in the field investigating, capturing the evidence, and you don't get to do the research later, right? Mm-hmm. I think I might know the answer to this question, but which one would you choose? And that's why I said it's not a fair question.
Oh, I choose research. I mean, not the research, but the investigation.
The investigation.
Yes. Even though I want that research. Because
right,
I'll be like, boop, 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 boop. I'm checking all the time. Like, if I get a name, I'm like, I do check. Like,
because
if I get a name. Because
it's really fun because especially when you can, at least for me, when the research uncovers something that is so crazy and profound or ridiculous, like she's your sixth cousin.
Right.
That's crazy.
But once I saw the picture, I would have been like,
but
we got to be related.
But I mean, what are the chances?
Right.
And, so it's like you either get to go in there and talk or investigate, or you get to know, like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. There's a reason I'm, to me, like the research and, post, to me, it's the hard work.
Right.
I guess, like reviewing EVP sessions or reviewing ITC or for EVP, like just combing through the footage. It's
tedious.
Sometimes it's painstaking.
It's right? Like, no, why? We had so much fun.
But then when you find it, mm-hmm. and then when other people show you the results of their work of combing through the footage, it's so exciting. And I'm so glad they did it.
Right.
I'm so happy. I'm like, oh my God, this is really incredible. And then it always makes me think, oh my God, there's all this footage I've never really gone through.
Right, because
what am I leaving on the table?
Right.
That could have. Do I have some kind of great, profound breakthrough or invention or something, or the blueprints of some kind of device that the source is trying to give me, and I just never listened to the footage? Obviously, I don't think so. But I don't know what I would do. I can't decide the answer to my own question. Because I do love the research in post so much. And
right.
The deep dive and going down the rabbit holes and trying to make connections between things that are seemingly unconnected. But that's fascinating. What's your dream spot? Let's wrap it up with this. What's your dream location that you haven't been to yet?
There's so many. I would really love to do like Dracula's Castle. Or
like over in Romania?
Yes.
Okay.
Something like that. Something that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do here in the States because I'm never going to get over there. But I've always wanted to go.
Well, not with that attitude.
Right. And not with my pocket money. Not much I can do with HVAC. But or go somewhere like over in Scotland and do the history because when I see like stuff on TV about them, they got such more rich history. Because
it just goes back so much further.
Right. And I would love to have the opportunity to do that to see how it compares to this, over here in the States. So,
yeah. I mean, at least it goes back so much further and recorded in ways that we're able to access, as opposed to the verbal and the oral history storytellings of the indigenous people here, which aren't always accessible, and I understand why.
Right.
That's a good call. Dracula's Castle. Wow.
So just as soon as I win the lottery, when I start playing, that's where I'm going.
We'll go get some Powerball tickets tonight.
Right.
Even though I can't believe they raised the price to $5. Right. I'm still complaining about that.
Before 9.
I'm so in my middle ages now. Just like, there's something. Wait, give me a second. I'll find something to complain about.
Right.
Like Chris was talking about last night on.
It's easy to find something to complain about.
It sure is. I wonder too, like, what do you think? This will be the final question. Mm-hmm. And I think it applies. It doesn't matter the size of the location or the place, right? Because often as investigators, we're lucky to get a night, right? Mm-hmm. 10 hours, 12 hours, maybe.
Right.
What do you think is actually the time frame that's needed? Like money is not an issue. Time is not an issue. Getting off work, none of that stuff matters. How much time do you need in a location to really dig into it? What do you think is the sweet spot for that?
It would have to be a few times. For me, it would have to be me going several times. Not
just a long, not just like not like a week straight.
I feel like sometimes I get tired.
Okay.
Like at Octagon Hall, when they shut down for the off season, the first weekend back, that's the time to go. Like, because everything's happening that weekend. Because they've had time to rest that whole time and they've missed people. So I feel like going several times is better than staying for hours. Because, after a while, you can see spirits in the day, you can see spirits at night if you just look. Like for me, when I pass, I go lay down at 9, I go to sleep around 10, that's when I'm going, all my activity is going to stop at 10. You're going to hunt me after I die, So you can be here all night long. You ain't getting nothing. So
yeah.
Maybe my snoring. But I'm just saying, like, I still think sometimes they're in that routine.
Okay.
So if there's,
You think that the pattern of life carries over into the pattern of after physical form?
For me, I think it does.
Okay. Well, I think you might even get to pick that.
Right.
You might even get to choose.
As long as I have to work.
Yeah, I doubt you'll have to work. I really hope not. If we have to work, there's going to be, you're going to see, I'm going to organize a union.
Right.
I'm going to be unemployed in the afterlife.
I want to sleep to noon. I was thinking last night, I want to sleep to noon.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today because I think I need, what is it? Because you're not sleeping the whole time you go to bed. Mm-hmm. So you go lay down. It usually takes me a while to fall asleep. But I need an 8-hour, 9-hour window.
Right.
I think it turns out. And I end up sleeping probably 7 of that. Mm-hmm. I think that's my window. I should know this by this age, what I need. But, and it's just, I can shift it. It's just a matter of how late am I going to sleep? Am I going to sleep at 4 o'clock? Then it's going to be 12:30 before I'm out of bed.
Right.
Am I going to bed at midnight? Then I'll be up by 9:30 or 9 o'clock. But anyway, we don't have to talk about my sleep habits.
That's okay.
But I am going to be definitely the late night ghost. Mm-hmm. I'm the late night ghost people are looking for.
So your location, we would go.
You go at midnight.
At midnight.
Things start really picking up after midnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Until
especially on new moons.
12:30, you're working. I mean, you're sleeping. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go during the day. It's a new city over there.
Right.
Yeah. So, there will be a studio apartment somewhere in the future that's super
At certain time, I would be like, how did I get the comedian's apartment? Why?
Well, Tabitha, this has been really fun. Is there anything you want to plug or anything out there that you want people to find you, or do you want to be left alone?
No,
we
I'm
can
good.
do that as well.
Name's Tabitha Moore. I'm on, what is it? It's Tabitha Reflections on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
So it's Tabitha Reflections because the group I'm with is Reflections of the Paranormal.
Okay, cool.
And then it's Tabitha Moore on Facebook. Look, I'm almost 50. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
Tagline? I don't know.
Yeah, like Ed was mentioning TikTok today. He's like, I haven't posted a video. I was like, I don't know when. I couldn't tell you when I posted a video the last time.
Well, the only video that really gets popular for me is when my daughter's on it. So I'm like, get in here, kid. I'm like, I need you for views.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. And I look forward to our journey down to Florida here very soon. And thank you for listening, everybody. I appreciate you. There's big news coming to the Mindcast. Within the matter of probably a week or so from the time you listen to this, there's going to be big news. I'm finally going to be able to tell you what it is. It's going to be exciting. Trust me, it's going to be exciting. Anyway, I hope to see you at a live show. I've got a couple shows in Asheville, North Carolina, by the time you're listening to this, on the 8th and 9th of August. And then I'll be in upstate New York with your favorite person and mine, Karen Rontowski. The 15th, 16th, and 17th will be in Utica, New York. Then we'll be in somewhere else, and then New Bern on Sunday. I just did a promo video for this. I can't believe I can't remember. Anyway, check the website. Info hopefully will be there. RyanSangerComedy.com. And if I don't see you at a live show, I'll just see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.